How you guys doing? Feels good to be back. Lots transpired since I left. Let's see, Matt Patricia, he gone. David Caldwell, he gone. Practice squad wide receiver playing starting quarterback? It's the most 2020 time of the year. Who else could it be? Me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to the Louie T Network podcast, episode 116. Back like cooked crack, fresh off of a bye week, and I feel recharged, energized, and ready to go. So we gonna hit this thing running down the home stretch. But before we get into any of the activities this afternoon, because we got to make sure we get out of here in timely fashion here on this beautiful Wednesday, because we got Wednesday afternoon football. That's right, Wednesday afternoon football. We will talk about that a little bit later on in the show. However, how was your Thanksgiving? Gotta ask. And today's going to be one of those really interactive podcasts. You know how we usually do it on Wednesday, but I'm going to kind of switch it up a little bit today. If you're out there and you're watching, and I'll try to do my best to continue to remind you to do this, use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read on the air. I'm going to read your comments if you use the hashtag and it's pertinent as we go through all of the items that we're going to touch upon today. So I'm not going to wait till one, particular subject or topic or segment, I should say, when I usually go to social media maneuvers. I want to actually read your comments in real time as we go through these topics if I see it and it's pertinent. So use the hashtag LouieTLive if you've got a comment that you want read, and if it has something to do with what we're talking about, I'll knock it out. As we get to the social media maneuvers, you can talk about whatever the hell you want. It doesn't have to have anything to do with what I'm talking about. You can go off on a tangent, talk about something else totally separate from what we're talking about, and we can discuss that too. Anyway, how was your Thanksgiving? I had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Obviously, you saw the game on Thursday, so you know my Thanksgiving was dynamite. It was truly one of the most blissful Thanksgiving evenings I've had. Enjoyed the 5 F's, family, food, faith, football, and food. They were all great. Speaking of friends, felt so good to go and chop it up with the fellas. Haven't seen them in a while. It's not often that we all are in the same proximity anymore. As you get older, you move away. One of my friends now calls Ohio home. One still lives back home, and then I moved up north. So, it's always great when we can all be in one locale together and chop it up. It always feels like old times. It's not. So the relationship I have with my friends, I told you I'm hyper competitive. I can't help it. It is what it is. And so, it's amazing how when you take a step back and assess the situation that you call friendship and the people that are closest to you, it doesn't take much to realize that you attract people that are much like yourself. You befriend people and are close to people a lot of times, not always, that are much like yourself. And so when I look at my friends, my best friends, and I look at the reason we're best friends, it's because we share a lot of the same goals in life, one, and you need to surround yourself with people who are going in the same direction as you. You don't want people that are holding you back. Two, we all kind of share that same competitive gene. We're very hyper competitive. And 3, we like a lot of the same things. So it makes a ton of sense when you take a step back and kind of assess that situation. And I said all of that to say this. Anytime we get up with one another It's not your normal, man, we haven't seen each other in a while. Let's catch up. Let's go out to dinner. Let's sit down, have a couple of drinks, kick it, talk, and catch up on life. How's the kids doing? How's the wife doing? How's the career going? What's going on in your life that's brand new? That's not how we operate. We don't do that. That's what normal people do, but we're not normal. When we get together, it has to be in some kind of competitive state. There has to be some kind of competitiveness going on in the background in order for us to link up. We don't just get together and say, hey, man, let's go out for drinks. No, we have to go to Top Golf and we got to swing golf clubs and try to beat each other. Or in this case, on Thanksgiving, we went bowling. And, it'll be paintballing one time. It'll be Top Golf another time. It'll be bowling another time. It'll be a shuffleboard another time. Man, we will go to Top Golf and won't even swing a golf club. We'll go there just for the shuffleboard table and literally play shuffleboard for 8 hours. Just hog the table and play for 8 hours. It's pool another time. Like, we always are doing something. So it was bowling this time. And needless to say, I kicked their asses. Okay, it's what I do. So we played total over the span of 2 days. We played 11 games. I won 9 of them. So now let me tell you, my bowling game has went to shit. I need a new ball. I need some new shoes. And I got to go more regularly. This was embarrassing. I'm not even going to tell you what my score was, my highest score of the weekend, because it's too embarrassing. I need more work, but this is the thing. As I've talked about before, I want to continue to get better all the while winning. It's nothing better than making adjustments and getting better while winning. That's what I was able to do. It wasn't pretty by any stretch of the imagination. But as Cam Newton said, as a wise man just told me last week, I'm not going to apologize for winning. It was not pretty, but it was gritty. And most importantly, it was a dub. I'll take them any way I can get them. And so it was fun getting up with the fellas and busting their ass in a little bit of bowling, knocking those pins down. And I can't wait to do it again. Hopefully your Thanksgiving and talking about ass busting, it was nice to bust the ass of the Cowboys and watch my dad kind of just sit there. And, it's nothing better than confirmation. I've talked about this. Everyone wants to be right. And I told my dad before the season started, you guys just made an epically bad hire. Mike McCarthy is a joke. And I said, you're going to find out that it was more Aaron Rodgers and less of Mike McCarthy as to why they were winning in Green Bay. They might as well take down that damn street. If they still got a McCarthy street out there in Green Bay, take that shit down. He's trash. He's horrible. As a head coach, you're seeing it firsthand. This guy is clueless. And, man, was he cussing up a storm on Thanksgiving. What the hell is this clown doing? We must be going after the number 2 overall pick. Hey. Relax. RELA. Relax. This is the guy you hired. This is what you wanted. Now you got to take your medicine. Hopefully it tastes like some nasty grape Dimetap Robitussin nonsense. Sit there and take your medicine. You asked for this. So, anyway, I digress. Let's get into the gym dropping session, shall we? I think we shall. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind, let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie T-double-E. Let me open you up. Get you thinking a little bit. So, this gym dropping session is going to essentially act as a in case you missed it, because we missed a lot. Been off on a week hiatus, on a bye week, and so a lot has transpired. I may not touch on every single thing that has gone on, but I'm going to touch on everything that I deemed pertinent since I've vacated and exited stage left. So we'll jump into that in a second. Let's get to some of your comments, though. I told you I want to make this an interactive show today. want you guys to be involved. Remember, if you're out there, you're watching, you want to comment on something that we're talking about, or you just want to comment on something random, use the hashtag LouieTLive. If it's pertinent, I will read it. So, got a comment here from Mike Lowry, who says, how do you feel about bringing back all of the quarterbacks from this year, next year, and using the draft to pick up middle linebacker, safety, wide receiver, lineman, etc., etc.? I'll tell you what, it's going to be interesting to see what they decide to do. They don't have to do anything at the quarterback position other than re-sign Kyle Allen. He's the only one that contractually won't be tied to Washington next season. So theoretically, they don't have to do much other than stand pat if they so choose at the quarterback position. But I think they want to get the quarterback of the future on the roster. You know, Alex Smith isn't it. He may be the quarterback of the short-term future, but not long-term. I think they understand that. They know what this is. If they don't believe in Dwayne, then I think it's time to get that guy, because who else would you rather have him learn from than Alex Smith? No one. So you saw what it did for Patrick Mahomes. I think they feel like that another quarterback, a young guy, could benefit from being in the building with Alex Smith, seeing how to go about your business on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, on an hourly basis even. So it'll be interesting to see what they decide to do. I don't think Dwayne is a part of their future plans. I could be wrong. And they could think that Dwayne has a bright future in this league and they want it to be in Washington, but more likely than not, he's gone in the offseason, and I think they're going to go out and get another young quarterback and try to start that process over again while winning all the while. So we'll see what happens. King Sean 32 says, how do you think the Ravens and Steelers will play tonight? Do you think they're going to look rested? I do think they're going to look good and rested. I do think that the Ravens will struggle. Now, this is the same thing we thought about the Tennessee Titans when they missed all that time and they came back and they shellacked the Buffalo Bills on a Tuesday night. But this is a little bit different. Both of these teams have been off for quite some time. And I think the Ravens just have too many guys out, including their starting quarterback, Lamar Jackson. We'll talk about that a little bit later on tonight. Cody _ says, it was pretty bad. I got ill and could barely eat anything. Ouch, Cody. What the hell, man? Not Thanksgiving. Man, I'm glad you're feeling better. I'm assuming you feel better. I shouldn't assume. We know what that does. But, wow. You couldn't eat on Thanksgiving. That's rough. That's torture is what that is. Hopefully you feel better. And hopefully there were some leftovers for you to consume, man. That's not cool. King Sean 32 says, you already know. You already know how about Thanksgiving was. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. JP says, in the words of Oprah Winfrey, you get fired, you get fired, you get fired, you get fired, everybody gets fired. It's a lot of that going on, man. You get a pink slip, you get a pink slip, you get a pink slip, you get a, just make sure you return the yellow copy to me. I need to keep that for my records. But a lot of pink slips are being handed out. Ouch. We'll talk about that here in a second. Anyway, you know what? We're going to stop right there, and we're going to come back to the rest of these comments when we get to social media maneuvers. So, gym dropping session. I got some topics that I want to discuss, and so let's knock some of these out. Let's start with the Broncos quarterback situation. This was comical over the weekend. So, the Broncos had every single one of their 3 quarterbacks on the roster out in Week 12 versus the Saints because Jeff Driscoll contracted COVID-19. And because the other quarterbacks, Blake Bortles, Drew Lock, and company, were in close proximity, contact tracers without a mask, they all were ruled out of Sunday's game. So, you know, Drew Lock's mom came to Drew's defense because a lot of people were talking about how irresponsible he was and how could he do this and this, that, and the third. So mom to the rescue. And a lot of people had something to say about moms stepping up to the plate. First of all, I don't have any issues with Drew Lock's mom coming to his defense. Okay, if his mom wants to defend her son, she is perfectly within her right to do so. A lot of people came after her for, oh, he can't stand up and be a man for himself. Look, I'm gonna just tell you right now, if somebody came after me, my mom would be the first one ready to put a foot in your ass. Okay, and if you got something to say about my mom coming to put a foot in your ass for talking about me, then we got a problem. So I'm just telling you, I literally, with my mom, it's just crazy. My mom could see me slap the hell out of somebody and the police could show up and they could ask my mom, did your son just slap the hell out of him, of this guy? And she'd be like, nope, he didn't do it. He damn sure did not do it. Like, that's my mom. My mom would go to bat for me. I'm not saying it's right, but that's my mom, okay? Drew Lock's mom is telling you, hey, look, Drew was trying to come and get more film study in. He was trying to go above and beyond the Call of Duty so that he could try to help his team win. And y'all gonna try to chastise him for that? First of all, these guys are getting tested every single day. They're all negative. We thought at least they were all negative. And so you feel like you are in this cocoon, this bubble that you've created that is supposed to be a safe haven, and you're in a group with guys that you're around all the time. And if all of them are negative, which they all tested negative, then why do you need to have a mask on? That was the thought process. We're in here, we're watching film, we're trying to get extra work in after hours, which is what we ask starting quarterbacks to do in this league. Show up early, leave late. And it just so happens that Jeff Driscoll ended up with COVID-19. And they didn't have COVID. They all tested negative. However, they didn't have enough negative tests before the game. The contact tracers, the close proximity, they had to sit out. And they had to turn to a practice squad wide receiver who hadn't been hit in over 2 years. And Kendall Hinton. This was so tragic. Okay. He goes out there and, man, bless his heart, he gave it a run. He did the best that he could. I mean, look, the Broncos even petitioned the I've never heard anything like this. But this is 2020. It's COVID. You're going to hear a lot of things you've never heard before. So the Broncos petitioned the NFL to allow one of their coaches, who's a quality control assistant, all right, a QC, who knows this offense in and out, Rob Calabrese, to be able to suit up as a Bronco quarterback and play quarterback for them. Like, what the hell were the Broncos even thinking asking that? Look, I'm not mad at them. I always tell the youth of America, the worst they can tell you is no. All right? You got to at least ask, right? So they did. And the NFL's promptly told them, man, if you don't get out of my face with that stupid shit, the next thing you know, we're literally going to be like the water boy and teams are going to be trying to suit up their strength and conditioning coach. Like, what are we doing right now? Get out of my face. So they got told no, and so they had to activate a practice squad wide receiver, Kendall Hinton, who hadn't taken a quarterback snap in over like 3 or 4 years when he was back at Wake Forest, and hadn't been hit, hadn't had contact in over 2 years, and was working in a department store as late as a month ago. Like, it's just crazy to think that this guy had to come in, take a crash course in quarterback in like 24 to 48 hours, and then go out there against an NFL defense, and a damn good one, I might add, in the New Orleans Saints, and try to help his team win. It was crazy. He went 1 of 9, 2 interceptions. The one pass that he did complete was an awful throw on a tight end screen. Man, it was bad. It was brutal. It was rough watching that guy go out there and watching that Broncos offense, for that matter. At least they scored. It could have easily gotten shut out, but they did not. But man, it was ugly. And one more side note on this crazy, wacky story about Kendall Hinton playing quarterback for the Denver Broncos. Jerry Jones. This is why the Cowboys will never win anything as long as he's alive. I hate to say that because I don't wish anything on him, but it's the same way I felt about the Raiders with Al Davis. As long as Al Davis is breathing, they're going to always struggle because he's going to hold that organization back. Same thing with Jerry Jones. And it may even be worse in that case because at least Al Davis's son doesn't want anything to do with the football operations. He just wants to run the entire organization and leave the football decisions for football people. Stephen Jones thinks he knows football just like his dad thinks he knows football, and he's probably going to continue the effery after his dad is long, done and gone. He'll probably continue the long lineage of tomfoolery that goes on in that organization and continue to hold them back. We'll see. Maybe he's a little bit more level-headed than his father. But Jerry, on his weekly radio program, which it's crazy to think that an NFL owner, and he's not the first nor the last guy to do this, but he appears on a radio station every week in Texas talking about the Dallas Cowboys. I don't know why he decides to do this. It's not healthy. It's not good for his organization because of stupid shit like what he just said today, or it might have been yesterday, whatever the case may be. He said that the Denver Broncos quarterback situation with Kendall Hinton isn't that much different than what the Cowboys had to go through putting in quarterback out of JMU, their 7th round. Mind you, this is a real quarterback that actually went to college and played quarterback and took his team to the national championship, okay, that we're talking about here. And Ben DiNucci. It's not any different. Your practice squad wide receiver that you just got from Dillard's or Macy's a month ago, who's playing receiver, but you're asking him to play quarterback. It's really no different than us putting Ben DiNucci in the game. Well, shit. Well, how does that make Ben DiNucci feel? I mean, seriously, what the hell are you talking about, Jerry? You drafted this guy in the 7th round out of James Madison. So obviously you thought he could play quarterback. They didn't draft Kendall Hinton, and he's a wide receiver now. And he was working in a department store as of a month ago. What the hell are we talking about? The two aren't apples to apples. What are you talking about, dude? Shut up. Jerry Jones is such an ass. And I love it because as long as he's around, his organization will continue to struggle. But he just added more fuel to the fire unnecessarily in what is the dumpster fire that is known as the Dallas Cowboys in 2020. Anyhow, after the 41, in case you missed it, after the 41-25 loss to the Green Bay Packers on Sunday Night Football, head coach Matt Nagy of the Chicago Bears called out players and coaches and essentially said, have some personal pride about the product you're putting out on the field. And we talked about at the beginning of the show, and we haven't really got knee deep into this yet, but I referenced Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn, the general manager and head coach formerly of the Detroit Lions, both being shown the door and handed their pink slips. General manager of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Dave Caldwell, handed his pink slip, shown the door. We know that soon to follow will be their head coach as well. You have to think Matt Nagy's starting to feel the pressure in Chicago. You start the season off 5-0, and now you've lost 5 straight. Or I think they started off the season 5-1, and they've now lost 5 straight. And now they're under 500 at 5-6. They're searching for answers at the quarterback position. This defense, look, for much of the season, this defense has been good enough to win them just about every ball game they've played in, with the exception of Sunday night. The dam finally broke. And they're not the same defense without their defensive tackle, Akeem Hicks. He's a difference maker. To me, he makes all the world difference on that football team defensively. You saw it on Monday night against the Vikings a couple of weeks ago. When he got injured, that game changed drastically. Minnesota found it a lot easier to move the football, to run it, to be effective offensively. He did not play against the Packers, and it showed. They got gashed in that game. They got destroyed in that game. They weren't competitive in that football game. And he's calling out players now. He's calling out coaches. That's usually a sign that things are about to come to an end for you. When you start calling out players, when we start changing play calling responsibilities, we start firing, individual positional coaches. There are a lot of different ways to signal that the end is near as a head coach. When you start getting rid of assistant coaches, offensive line coach, receiver coach, offensive coordinator, when you start changing responsibilities, play calling, etc., when we start doing those things to shake things up, that's when the end is near. You're feeling the pressure and you're trying to relieve some of that and alleviate some of that pressure by doing some things to say, hey, I think I might have found the problem. Here's what I'm going to do. And so when we start calling people out, when we start challenging guys' manhood and having pride about yourself, that's a sign that shit's starting to go south for the Bears and Matt Nagy. And I don't know if that division crown back in 2018 is going to be enough for him to stand on after this season. If let's just say they don't win another game this year. And it's very possible with the way they're playing football. Don't know what their schedule looks like. I don't care what their schedule looks like. If they continue to play the kind of football they've been playing of late, and this defense, it's a shame because they're actually good enough. And they finished this season up 5-11, which means they would have lost 10 straight, and they would have lost 11 out of their final 12. Or that means they would have lost, what are we on now? 5-game losing streak, correct? What are there? 4 games left. So 9 straight losses to finish out the season, and 10 out of your final 11 you lose. Is that enough to get him Raheem Morris in Chicago? Maybe. We'll see. But that's interesting, watching Matt Nagy in Chicago. The Lions. I talked about this at the top of the show. Let's jump into this because I never was a fan of this. I don't want to go down this road again, because you know where I'm going with this. I've talked about this numerous times on this podcast. You know how I feel about this situation in Detroit. That's another loser organization that just doesn't get it. They're another one of these, and there are several of them in this league that they just don't get it for whatever reason. They're among them. They fired Jim Caldwell when all he did was win. You could argue that, and a lot of Lions fans would tell me, well, he needed to go. This team was stale. They needed a change of scenery. They needed a new voice. They couldn't take that next step with Jim Caldwell. Oh, okay, cool. All I know is that you're a loser organization, and the last guy that actually won games for you, you fired him. You fired him. Took you to the playoffs, won 9 games his final year, and you fired him. Okay, I look, if you felt like you needed a change, fine. I'm just telling you, karma's a sumbitch, man. It really is. You fire a guy for basically no reason other than winning, and you go out and you hire Matt Patricia. You bring in Bob Quinn, and you think they're going to change things. Well, the more things change, the more they stay the same in Detroit. Loss after loss, blown lead after blown lead, all culminating in 2 of the most ugliest losses of the season. You get blanked at Carolina with a backup quarterback that's making his first career start in the NFL? Really? You lose 24-0 on the road to Carolina? And not to shit on Carolina, but it's Carolina with PJ Walker at quarterback. Excuse me for not being impressed. All right? Throws 2 interceptions in the end zone and you still can't score any goddamn points. It's a shame. Then you go on Thanksgiving, short week, quick turnaround. I get all of that stuff. Look, other teams have to deal with it. The Texans didn't have a problem adjusting to a short turnaround. They put up 41 on your stinking ass. Deshaun Watson and look, you call it what you want. Will Fuller, was he cheating? I don't know. It doesn't matter. 3 touchdowns, kicked your ass, got you fired. Bob Quinn, you hired this chump, you got to go too. And to be honest, haven't really been that impressed with your drafts anyway. Get him out of here. So they're starting over again. We'll see what happens. But I know somebody that's smiling right now. He's not that type of guy, but I'm going to smile for you, Jim. You dirty bastards. You got what you deserve there. Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn, head coach and GM. They gone. Next up, in case you missed it, Rigoberto Sanchez, punter of the Indianapolis Colts, found out that he has cancer. He had some cancerous cells, a tumor that had to be removed surgically. And, this is where the NFL does such a good job with some of these players, man, testing them and finding stuff that maybe they wouldn't have otherwise found. You remember going back to Eric Berry and look, there are countless stories of the NFL doctors and team physicians effing stuff up. Tyrod Taylor getting a punctured lung, trying to get a cortisone shot. Like, there are countless. I know guys that had their careers ended with staph infections, being in these nasty locker rooms and not having it properly treated by the medical staff. Like, we can go down the list of guys that have had their careers ended or impacted by the way that the NFL and some of the medical staffs around the league have handled their situations. But we're talking about life and death here. And Eric Berry having his cancer located after a game, I think it was against the Raiders, and he goes and has an MRI, and they find the cancer. And here, he was complaining of something going on, and Rigoberto Sanchez has a cancerous tumor located and is going to have the surgery. I think he might have already had the surgery to have it removed. That's massive, man. That's big. You say what you want, but that's a lifesaver. So prayers go up to Rigoberto Sanchez and his family, and speedy recovery for him. And I hope to see him kicking for the Indianapolis Colts sooner rather than later. In case you missed it, in the title of this show, I said, man, the Green Bay Packers look extremely smart. And you're probably thinking to yourself, and you might already know what I'm talking about. You might say, what the hell are you talking about, Louie T? Why do they look so smart? Well, one, they got Aaron Rodgers. That's pretty damn smart, right? Yeah, no. That's the obvious. I'm not talking about. Thanks, Captain Obvious. I'm not talking about that. Remember, I made a big stink about them not doing something at the trade deadline. I'm like, man, Devontae Adams sure could use some help. Aaron Rodgers sure could use some help. Didn't do it in the draft when you had an opportunity to do it. Here's an opportunity. You got to try to win a Super Bowl when you got a chance. Like, these opportunities aren't guaranteed to you year in, year out. You can't just say, well, got Aaron Rodgers, we'll be back here next year, because Aaron Rodgers could tear a ligament in his ankle and be out for the season. Aaron Rodgers could tear a ligament in his thumb and be out for an extended period of time. We've seen Aaron Rodgers have injuries that impact this Packers team drastically. So you can't just say, well, we'll be back next year, we got Aaron Rodgers, everything's going to be A-okay. No. You got to take advantage of these opportunities. Like the Ravens did. Now, I killed the Ravens for pushing all their chips into the center of the table back in 2011, that 2012 season that they won the Super Bowl. I chastised them for that. But guess what? That 2012 season resulted in a Super Bowl. Now, after that season, they had a bunch of money that they paid Joe Flacco. They had to cut all of the guys that helped him win the Super Bowl. Like 11 of the starters from the year before were no longer there. It happens, but you know what? There's always that Super Bowl trophy in the case that you can turn and look at and say, but we did that shit, though. We did that. Yeah, it may have set us back 5 or 6 years after that, but hey, we did that. There's always that trophy that reminds you, hey, we got it done that year. I thought the Packers had a chance to be able to do that this year. All they needed was one more piece. One more guy. And I was like, Will Fuller is that guy. And the Packers are like, yeah, but really don't want to give up what they want for him. And I'm like, hey. What are we haggling about here? A second, a third? Who gives a shit? You got a chance to win a Super Bowl. Go and get it. They're like, yeah, but we like second round picks. We like making those selections. We don't want to give that away. Dude, go and win a chip if you can win a chip. It was like, nah, we'll pass. Okay. Well, look who's laughing now. Look who's gotten the last laugh. After Will Fuller and cornerback Bradley Roby both test positive for PEDs and are suspended for the final 6 games of the season. Yikes. Could you imagine if the Packers traded for Will Fuller, gave up a second round pick, and then finds out that he's tested positive for PEDs and he's not going to be able to help them the remainder of the season? Do you know what that would have looked like? What that would have felt like? The backlash? Oh my God. They just averted a disaster. Kudos to they didn't know this was coming. This isn't like you give a guy a physical and you see a little bit of some murkiness in that x-ray and that result, and you're like, we probably should lay off this guy. And then 2 weeks later, he breaks his leg and you're like, hey, we saw that. We knew he had some damage in there. That's not this. You didn't know this was coming. No one could have known this. At the end of the day, he's suspended for 6 games. Poor Deshaun Watson, too. Like, they cut, and I was going to name this later. Might as well do it now. They cut Kenny Stills, do the Texans, okay? And they said, we're going to give you a chance to go latch on with a contender. We're not even going to hold you up. Go ahead and do your thing, Kenny, man. We appreciate you. So he cleared waivers. Now he's got a chance to sign with any team he would like. Let's see where he goes and where he ends up, because he's a difference maker as Kenny Stills. He can help someone. All right. So no Kenny Stills. Just found out that Randall Cobb is injured, going to miss some time. And now Will Fuller's done for the season. Well, who the hell is Deshaun Watson throwing the football to anyway? I know that he's still got Brandon Cooks. Who else does he have? Kiki QT? Really? Like, it's rough, man. They got to do better for Deshaun, man. Poor Deshaun. Ouch. Anyway, Packers look smart. Will Fuller's suspended, and they dodged one hell of a bullet. My God. Yikes. Question. This has nothing to do with, in case you missed it, I just got a question. I just talked about Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn getting fired. I talked about Dave Caldwell in Jacksonville getting fired, the GM for the Jaguars. And we'll talk about that a little bit more here in a second. We know about the Atlanta Falcons head coach, Dan Quinn, getting fired. We know about Bill O'Brien already getting fired in Houston. Why the hell is Adam Gase still employed? Can anybody answer me this? Why is he still the head coach of the New York Jets? The only thing that I can think of is that they're trying to go 0-16 and secure the number 1 pick in the draft. That's the only reason that this guy is still here. Because I'm telling you right now, if they would have fired him 5 weeks ago, they would be a 2-win team right now. Seriously. This team, it's not good. Don't get it twisted. But he's so bad that he's good and responsible for at least 4 to 5 losses by himself a season. He mismanages injuries. He mismanages his players. He's not a good locker room guy. He's a cancer himself. When's the last time we thought of a coach as a cancer? I think the last time was Josh McDaniels in Denver back in like 2011 when he got the job and he got rid of Cutler and Brandon Marshall and traded them to the Bears. Like, that's the last time we looked at a guy as a cancer. This guy is a true cancer, is Adam Gase. I don't know how he got this job in the first place and why he's still employed. This is insane to me. Now, I get it. If you want the number 1 pick, you're doing a hell of a job of securing it. Because as long as this man is employed, you will not win a football game. Did you see what he did to Sam Darnold on Sunday? Like, this is insane. Like, why are we doing it? Like, I'm not the biggest Sam Darnold fan. I'm not. You guys know this. I wasn't a huge fan of him coming out of USC. Didn't think he was, the best quarterback in that draft class. But he's got talent. The way he's being treated in New York is unlike anything I've seen in quite some time. He's being set up to fail. He's being thrown out there with injuries when he's not healthy. They're taking his best lineman out of the game. Alex Lewis, who's been one of the Jets' best linemen this season, sat for disciplinary reasons. Really? Like what? You take your first round pick and he's out there with a shoulder injury that he should be out on the shelf for about 3 or 4 weeks with, and you got him in the game, and 2 plays into the game, he has to come out because his shoulder has been hurt even worse. And Mekhi Becton, what are you doing? Like, this guy just doesn't get it. And they're allowing him to do irreparable damage to this organization before they get rid of him. He's gone at the end of the season. There's no way he's going to survive this. Just move on now, before the damage is too great. He already alienated your best player. You had to trade him because he didn't want to play for this guy. The damage is done. It's crazy. I don't know why he's not fired yet. Don't ask me. I don't know. Stop asking. Dave Caldwell. Jaguars GM, who I really like as a personnel guy, fired. He gone. Why is he gone? Simple. The fastest way to get fired as a general manager, two things you can do. And you don't have to do both. One will suffice. Pick the wrong head coach. That's what Bob Quinn did. He gone in Detroit. Or pick the wrong quarterback. And that, in there lies the problem for my guy, Dave Caldwell, who I actually thought was a hell of a talent evaluator. He just failed to be able to evaluate the talent at the most important position. And unfortunately, that's what got him in Jacksonville. He signed Nicholas Foles to a contract. That didn't work. He went out and got Chad Henne. That didn't work. And we blamed it all on the Henne. He drafted Blake Bortles. Ouch. And he just hasn't been able to fix the quarterback position in Jacksonville. Despite putting together one of the most stacked defensive rosters we've ever seen with Dante Fowler Jr., Calais Campbell, Yannick Ngakoue, Jalen Ramsey. I mean, they were so loaded. Telvin Smith, Paul Posluszny. That defense is one of the best we've ever seen in NFL history. No joke. Now, I'm talking about from a talent standpoint, not from a production standpoint. That 2017 season was a culmination of Dave Caldwell drafting well for years and finding some little tidbits in free agency like Calais Campbell to add into the mix. But that team was loaded. And it was all Dave Caldwell. And he's drafted well. I've always said, I love what the Jacksonville Jaguars do in the draft. They identify talent well. It doesn't hurt that you draft in the top 5 almost every year, so it's hard to miss. But there are teams that miss in the top 5. There are teams that miss in the top 10 all the time. They didn't. Rarely did they miss in the top 10. Every now and again, there's a Tyson Alualu in there somewhere, but yeah, he was okay. He wasn't terrible, so I thought he did a really good job, DJ Chark, look at him, how good of a receiver he's turned out to be. Like, they don't miss that often in Jacksonville. The problem is he missed at the most important position too often. Whether it's signing Nicholas Foles to a big deal to bring him in to be the savior, or it's whiffing on Blake Bortles. You can't miss at the most important position and keep your job in this league. It's just too important of a position. The only reason John Elway continues to be employed is because he won a Super Bowl back in 2015. He's still living and eating off of that. Eventually, that's going to run its course, just like in Philadelphia with their head coach Doug Peterson winning the Super Bowl in 2017. Eventually, that's going to run its course. You can only live off of a Super Bowl win for a certain amount of time before everyone wants your head if you're not getting it done. And Caldwell wasn't winning Super Bowls. That's for damn sure. And he there was a little bit of life there from the 2017 run to the AFC Championship game, but you didn't win the Super Bowl. You just got to the championship game. And so that wore off, and after 8 seasons, he's out as Jacksonville Jaguars general manager. I think he'll get another job eventually. It may not be right away. It's tough to get a job in this league as a GM. There aren't but 32 of these openings, and they don't come open very often. You've got to really fail epically to get fired as a GM in this league. So I think he might be on someone's staff, as a consultant and as an assistant. But it wouldn't shock me if he resurfaced as a general manager down the road. In case you missed it, 49ers have to play their remaining home games in Arizona. Santa Clara's like, look, man, we love the revenue that you generate for this city, and we love the team. You guys are awesome. Love the stadium that you built here. This is great. But about that football game stuff, nah, we're not having any more large gathering, and we're not having any more sporting events here in Santa Clara. Sorry, not happening. We don't care how important your little football thing is. You have to do that somewhere else. So luckily, and this is why family members are so important. And I told you guys, we may hate each other, but we still have respect for one another. That's why we're family. You know who bailed them out? Arizona said, you know what? We see you out here on the streets, hard times, you got kicked out. You can crash with us for a little while. You're going to have to pay rent. All right, you're going to have to do some chores around here. You're not going to just be freeloading. However, you can come stay with us until you get back on your feet. That's what family members are for, okay? And you know what? They're going to play each other in Arizona in 3 weeks. So the 49ers don't even have to leave home. Who knew? That's why you got to love family. Because in your darkest times, they show up and they're there for you. Arizona Cardinals bailing out the San Francisco 49ers. They could have said, hey, I don't want any parts of this. You're going to have to go get help from the Raiders or somebody else, the Rams, the Chargers. Look, that's not my business. They opened their doors to a family member. How noble is that? Did you guys read this story? In case you missed it. Did you guys read this story? Bengals organization / locker room culture called worse than college level. This was an SI report written by Elise Jesse. Never ever trust a woman. 2 first names. Now, this report I found very intriguing because I myself am a connoisseur of bad NFL organizations, being the fan of one of the most unkept NFL organizations in the league. I myself can identify with the struggles of the Lions and the Bengals and the Jets because we're right in the mix with those bastards. We stink just like they do. We can't get out of our own way just like they can't. Throw the Cowboys in there too. The only difference is, unlike the Jets and the Lions and the Browns, even though the Browns are 8-3 right now, and you know the Bengals and all of these bad organizations, is the Cowboys every other 3 or 4 years they win big. Now they don't win anything once they get there to the postseason, but they'll win 12, 13, 14 games and be one of the best teams in the league. When you're this bad as an organization, you usually don't get those types of seasons. The Bengals did have it back in like 2015 though, but that came to a screeching halt because the football god stepped in and said, hey, you're the Bengals. You don't do shit the right way. We're not going to allow you to have fun with this. And they took Andy Dalton. Every time, have you ever noticed this? Every time a bad organization, a poorly run organization has something good going, or a guy that they believe in, the football gods promptly snatch that guy away from them. Have you noticed this? In Detroit, Barry Sanders, Megatron, heavens to Megatron. I had to give myself a reason to even say that. I miss saying that. But it's not coincidental that every time you feel like, man, we got this guy that's unstoppable, they retire early. How about Cincinnati? One of the best teams in football, home playoff game, Carson Palmer, 2004, 2003, whatever, I think it was 2005. Kimo von Ohlenhoffen falls on his knee. End of that story. They were never the same. How about Bengals in 2015? Oh my God, Andy Dalton's playing at an MVP-like level. Break his finger. Break his hand. Get him out of here. You don't find this odd? Washington football team, then the Washington Redskins, 2012, Robert Griffin III. Oh my God, this guy's a phenom. Give me your whole goddamn knee. All of it. LCL, MCL, PCL, ACL, all of that shit. Give me all of them CLs. Give me all of them. Never the same. You don't find this coincidental. You shouldn't. You see what's happening to Sam Darnold now? It's not a coincidence. When you run a terrible organization, the football gods come to collect. You don't get to do the tomfoolery and the chicanery and the shenanigans that these organizations conduct and get to partake in and think that there are no consequences. And so this Bengals organization, they're a joke. They have been a joke. They continue to be a joke. Remember the whole conversation surrounding Joe Burrow coming into the draft last year. Hey, man, do not go to this Bengals organization, they will destroy you. You had people coming out the woodworks, like Ken Anderson, who is not Ken Anderson, excuse me. One of the Falcons' old first round, number one overall pick quarterbacks. I forgot his name. Shit, it escapes me. And he talked about how they destroyed his career. You know, he got beat up. He was in the hospital constantly. And it wasn't a well-run organization. And we know the Falcons back in those days weren't a well-run organization. And he said it destroyed his career. And we've seen quarterbacks with talent be drafted number one overall, i.e. David Carr, and have their careers destroyed by an unstable franchise. We've seen it happen, or a situation where it's not ideal. This story by Elise Jesse highlights a locker room and a culture that is out of control right now in terms of players not believing in the staff. I used to ask the question, hey, because it's Cincinnati. Who's really paying attention? If you're not a Bengals fan, who really gives a shit? It's Cincinnati. They stink. Nobody cares, right? So they're all in their own little corner doing their own thing, and you're not really paying attention. But I keep asking the question, how is Zach Taylor really doing in Cincinnati anyway? Like, does anybody know? And I'm starting to get some clues here as to this shit is not going well at all. And he might be fired after this season. We'll see. There's a lot of stuff going on here. This thing is convoluted. But to make a long story short, Carlos Dunlap wanted out. He was upset about his playing time. There was a game, if you remember, week 2, Thursday Night Football, the shootout with Baker Mayfield and Joe Burrow, 35-30. He was out of the game for an entire quarter. They tried to get him to go back in after not getting any snaps for an entire quarter. You're talking about your best pass rusher here. And he's like, no, I'm not going back in the game. That's bullshit. So he doesn't go back in the game. Zach Taylor and the staff have a meeting together, and they decide to embarrass him in front of the entire team, make an example out of him. They thought that it was going to be this whole Bill Belichick come to Jesus moment where they realize if he'll do that to the best player on the team, he'll do that to any of us. And it backfired. They're like, that's bullshit. Y'all did that. He didn't do that. This is our best player on defense, and you didn't put him in the goddamn game. I wouldn't want to go back in the game either. That's bullshit. So that backfired in their face. They've got a couple of coaches that are problems on that team. Their defensive coordinator is Lou Amaruno. This is a guy that they call him unapproachable. Like, you can't even talk to this guy. What he says goes, and if you don't agree, there's the door. All right? It's my way or the highway type of guy. Same thing that the Texas players were saying about Bill O'Brien. Like, he's a dictator. You can't even talk to this guy. Those are the worst guys to have as head coaches because they think they know everything and they don't want input from the players. You can't win that way in this league. All right? The players are the ones on the field. So you got to listen to what they're saying. Not saying you have to implement anything that they're saying, but you got to take their input, make them feel like a part of this process. They got another coach, Jim Turner, offensive line coach. Sounds like the worst guy ever, okay? And he's had issues in the past. Dolphins had him, and he was suspended. Remember that whole situation with the ex-Stanford offensive lineman that had some issues mentally? And remember, he was thinking about shooting up his old school because he was bullied. Remember that guy? I can't remember his name, but remember that whole bullying issue with Richie Incognito and all those guys bothering him? He was the one that allowed that to go on, and he actually fostered an environment that was conducive to them bullying him. He's one of those tough guy coaches. He'll be all right. It's nothing but a little bit of ribbon. He'll be fine. He's the guy that allows players to stick a broomstick up somebody's ass, anally sodomize somebody, and says, hey, that's just old. That's just a little bit of ribbon. He's a dumbass, is Jim Turner, is essentially what I'm trying to tell you. He got reprimanded at Texas A&M for addressing a women's coalition group with a sexist letter. Like, what are we doing right now? Like, this guy's a joke. So this is the staff you put together? Really, Zach Taylor? This is the best you can do? And so all the while, these players don't respect these coaches. Remember John Ross came out right around the trade deadline and said, look, I made it known a long time ago. I want out. I'm perfectly healthy. I feel like I can contribute, this false narrative about I don't love football. No, I don't love this situation. It's hard to love a situation you're not even a part of. He's not the only guy that wants out. And you know what's always interesting in these situations, and I talk about this all the time, is that an elite level quarterback can mask a lot of deficiencies. I talked about it with Aaron Rodgers and the Cowboys head coach, Mike McCarthy, and how an elite head coach, elite quarterback can mask a lot of deficiencies of a coach, of an organization, of a roster, etc., etc., etc. We didn't hear any of this while Joe. Now, Cincinnati Bengals fans will tell you, bullshit. We've been dealing with this the entire time. Before Joe, since Joe. This isn't a before or after Joe situation. All right. We've been dealing with this before Joe. All right. As well. But a lot of this didn't come out until Joe got injured. It was all happy, hunky dory. Everything was great. They're growing. They're learning. And as soon as Joe Burrow went down, shit hits the fan. This article comes out, and all of a sudden now fingers are being pointed, and people are like, look, man. And a lot of people wanted to take the side of Carlos Dunlap in that spat in week 2. But they said, look, we can't take his side because there's a lot of politicking going on in that locker room. And if we take his side, we're not going to get on the field. You saw what they did to Carlos. He's our best defensive player. If they won't play him for some bullshit, what do you think they'll do to us? I'm just trying to eat, man. I'm just trying to feed my family out here. I'm not looking to get into any verbal, mental spats with any of the coaching staff because I need reps. I need tape out there, so if it doesn't work here, I can get a job somewhere else. So it's a mess in that locker room. The players don't respect the coaches. The coaches don't seem to have a grip or a grasp on how to get these players to perform at a high level for them. The communication seems to be off. Seems like Zach Taylor might be coaching his final 5 games in Cincinnati. I don't know if that's legit or not, but it's not looking too good for the Cincinnati Bengals. That culture is all kinds of jacked up. And look, are any of you surprised by this? I'm not. I don't think most of you are either. So, and I just got to throw this out here, and then we'll get to all of your comments before we move on. Tyreek Hill had 203 receiving yards in the first quarter against the Buccaneers. What? What? Yeah. The shame in all of it is that he only ended up with 269 yards. Man had 203 yards receiving with a minute and 12 seconds left in the first quarter. Wow. What? Unbelievable. Anyway, let's move on to social media maneuvers. I see a lot of comments. I think I got a super chat in here, so I'm going to take that, and I'm going to get to as many of these comments as we can before we get out of here and wrap up the show with garbage time. Got a super chat here from my man Vincent Cole. Thank you for the super chat, Vincent Cole. Greatly appreciate you. My man Vincent writes, welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Feels so good. Feels good to be back behind the mic, man. Always does. And as much as it pains me to say this, I missed you guys. I really did. So, feels good to be back, man. Really does. Thank you for that super chat once again, Vincent Coe. Let's see. We stopped right here with my man RG3 hashtag, who writes, "What do you think about my Browns being 8-3? I'm gonna be 100. I'm gonna keep it $150 with you, and I don't want you to feel like I'm shitting on you, because I'm not. I'm unimpressed by your 8-3, man. I'm gonna be brutally honest with you. Wasn't impressed with you against the Jaguars this week, past week. Got the win. That's all that matters. I don't really give a shit how it looks. I talked about that at the beginning of the show. Don't care how it looks. Never apologize for winning. Never do that. Ever. Don't care if it comes against an 0-11 team, a 1-10 team. Get the dub. Stack those up like bricks. We'll sort them out at the end of the season. See if you got enough bricks in the left-hand column to play some bonus football. That's what you're doing right now. But if you want me to be honest with you, I'm not impressed. But hey, keep doing your damn thing. You're 8-3, and right now you're sitting pretty. But you know the AFC is tough. It's not the NFC. You're not guaranteed anything. You could get cold. You could go cold at the end of this season because if I'm not mistaken, you still got the Ravens one more time. You still got the Steelers one more time. I think you got an NFC East game left on the schedule. I think you got the Giants left, if I'm not mistaken. You played everybody else in the division. So we'll see what you do. I don't see any way that you don't make the postseason unless you totally regurgitate all over yourself. I don't see that happening. So this is good. I like when the Browns are good. You guys deserve a chance to play some bonus football. You haven't played any in quite some time, so you deserve this. Ali Side says, welcome back, Lou. Is an old topic, but how do you feel about the NFL rewarding teams for having black coaches and by giving them extra picks? I don't like it. I think it's a slap in the face. I think most black coaches feel the same way. I like the fact that there's a conversation being had. That's the only thing that I like about this, is there is a conversation being had about, and it's not just about black coaches, it's minority coaches in general, and opportunities for them, in general managers and the like. All of this needs to be a conversation that they need to have, and awareness needs to be brought to the forefront. But I don't want a token pick to be given out for a team hiring a guy. I want a guy to be hired off of his own merit. I don't want, the Falcons to take into consideration, well, we really like Raheem Morris, and hey, we'll get a third round pick and a compensatory pick if we keep him on board as our head coach. Like, that's bullshit. Either you like Raheem Morris because what you think he can do for your football team, or you don't want Raheem Morris to be your coach, period. Like, we shouldn't be talking about extra compensation for bringing a guy in and on board. I think the conversation is good because it brings awareness to the topic and the matter at hand. But I don't like the fact that you're rewarding teams for hiring a minority. That's not what we're aiming for. We're aiming for equality, not compensation for a guy. We want to be hired, just like the officials talked about. Like, we want to get to a point where we don't have to assemble an all-black officiating crew. If there's an all-black crew, cool. It doesn't have to be a big deal. Just call a good game. That's all we care about. And when we can get to the point where that's the discussion, not, oh man, you got all black officials. Why does it have to be like when we get to a point where we're not talking about black quarterbacks, he's just a quarterback, and we're getting more of these guys to kind of dispel that notion. But when we can get to a point where it's not black quarterback, we don't have to throw black in the front of it. We can just say that's a hell of a quarterback right there. That's a hell of a head coach. That's a hell of a GM. Then we're making progress, but we're not there yet. So we got to continue to fight for that. Garland Jackson says, do you think our dependency on the running backs can hold up throughout the season? Absolutely, it can. But you're going to have to get other guys involved. But the running backs are a huge part of what we do offensively. And I think you can continue to ride these guys, but you're going to have to supplement that with other guys. And there are ways to do that. You see they're getting Logan Thomas more involved. Jet sweeps with other guys like Terry McLaurin had a jet sweep a few weeks ago. You can do different things to get other guys. I think I've said this, and I said this on my film breakdown. We need to get Steven Sims Jr. more involved. Before the season started, most of us felt like this guy was going to be our second best wide receiver. He's been non-existent since he's come back from injury. He's too dynamic of a football player. They need to get him more involved. There are ways to kind of take a little bit off of their plate, but still have them be one of the focal points of the offense. And I think it's just by spreading it around a little bit more, and they can do that. But I think these running backs are going to be a huge part of what we do because, remember, in Carolina, they had a guy named Christian McCaffrey who's pretty damn good, and he was the focal point of their offense. So I'm not looking for them to back off of the gas pedal with these running backs. I think they're going to be a huge part of what we do moving forward. Ali Side says, my Raiders got destroyed by the Falcons. I knew it was a trap game, but I did not expect a blowout. I think we can still make the playoffs, but we need a lot of help. That was rough. I didn't see that one coming at all. I thought it was a game you could lose, but then when I found out Julio wasn't playing and Todd Gurley wasn't playing, I'm like, oh, they're going to win this game. They got a break. And no, what they got was a broken foot off in their ass. 5 turnovers, 1 to the crib will do that to you, though. Can't go on the road against an explosive offense, even without some of their best weapons, and think that you can turn it over 5 times. Look, I've seen it firsthand. And this is the difference between a 5 turnover game against the Giants and a 5 turnover game versus the Falcons. One was a 23-20 loss. The other was a 43-6 loss. You figure out which was which. Cody _ says, man, I missed you, bro. It was weird not chopping it up with you after my Packers destroyed the Bears. By the way, the Bears were dumb to bench Mitch. I agree with that. I never thought that was a good idea because, again, even when the offense is stale, you've still got Mitchell Trubisky's legs. Worst case scenario. He at least can get you out of a few jams a game that could make the difference between winning a game and losing a game. And I don't know why the staff didn't see that, but it is what it is. I feel it feels good to be back, and I'm glad that we can chop it up again. And your Packers took it to the Bears, and I thought they would win. I didn't think they would win as decisively as they did, and the score really doesn't indicate how thorough of an ass thrashing that really was on Sunday night. Asan Moore says, welcome back, Lou. Feels good to have you back. Do you think that if we beat the Steelers towards now, he says, let's see, if we beat the Steelers moving forward, now we can see this team, how good this team is and it has a great future. This division is tight. I just think this Steelers game is a measuring stick game. I really do. And I stated that yesterday on Washington Football Nightly. I think it's a game where we're going to find out a lot about our team. Going to watch them tonight and kind of see what they look like. And it's going to be a physical game. It's the Ravens. It always is. And hopefully they'll have a letdown the week after an emotional game against the Ravens, a short turnaround. I'm hoping that we catch them slipping. And we'll see what happens. Appreciate you, though, Asan Moore and Cody _ I got another super chat here from Silver V, my man Silver Villains. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Silver V writes, glad to see you back, Louie T. Wanted to know which team was more disappointing this week to you, the Rams or the Raiders or the Cardinals. I think it's a tie between the Raiders and the Cardinals. The Rams have 49ers problems. That's family business. If you don't know anything about that, then you wouldn't know. But they got swept by the 49ers. They got 49er issues. They've always had 49er issues. Jared Goff always struggles against them. They've got his number. They can pull his card at any time. And so that wasn't a surprise to me. What was a surprise to me was the Raiders not losing in the fashion that they lost. They were lifeless in that game. They got destroyed. And they didn't put up a fight against a team that, had they just fought, they might have imploded at the end of the game. Who knows? But they didn't even give themselves a chance to make the Falcons feel like they could come back and win. And so that was pretty disappointing. But I think the most disappointing, and I said it was a tie, I think I was more disappointed in the Arizona Cardinals. The Patriots stink. I watched that game from start to finish. They jumped on top of them 10-0. They had them right where they wanted them. And they were absolutely horrid in that football game. Now, Kyler Murray did some good things, but he also made some mistakes. The Cardinals are a young team, and this is what people feel, and this is why I said before the season they weren't going to make the playoffs. They're uneven. They're inconsistent. There are weeks where you watch this Cardinals football team, you say they could beat anybody in the league. They're a dangerous team. And then there are weeks where you watch them, you say they don't belong in the postseason. You know, when they lose to Detroit at home, they don't belong in the postseason. When you lose on the road to New England, you don't belong in the postseason. Like, this is a team that I just think, when it's all said and done, because of their schedule, more likely than not, they're going to make the playoffs. You play the NFC East, and, you play the AFC East, you should make the postseason, and they will. Their schedule is easy enough. There's enough layups on that schedule. But when you look at the body of work that they've put forth this year, I wouldn't be shocked if they missed the postseason. Okay? I wouldn't be shocked. But at the end of the day, I think they've got enough easy games left on the schedule to take care of business. I don't think they've used their Philadelphia Eagles get out of jail free card. They haven't used their New York Giants get out of jail free card. Now, if you F those up, I can't help you. But those get out of jail free cards are still available for their use. All right? Those are redeemable coupons. It's up to you whether you redeem them or not. Limited time only. Those coupons expire at the end of December. If you do not use them before December 31st, 2020, you can't use them again. So I would advise them to redeem those coupons and find a way into the postseason, because once you get there, anything is possible. But really disappointed with the Arizona Cardinals, probably more so than the Raiders, even though they got their asses handed to them by the Falcons. The Falcons are capable. The Patriots stink. They really do. And that offense is tragic. And they let them beat them. And their field goal kicker, again, and I actually like Zane Gonzalez, he cost them again. This is the second time this season Zane Gonzalez has cost them a football game. So that's rough. It's really rough. And let me just add one more thing. That was not a roughing the passer penalty. That was not on Isaiah Simmons. That wasn't a good call. He was inbound. Cam Newton was inbounds when that hit was delivered. That was a bullshit call. And it really cost them. But they shouldn't have been in that position anyway. So I don't feel bad for them. Got another super chat here from JDSG. Thank you for the super chat, JDSG, who writes, evaluation for Cam this season. Pats re-signing him. You know, it's hard to say how they really feel about him. We've heard Bill Belichick, effusive praise for the competitive spirit of Cam Newton and all the things that he's done. I think that there is some love for him in that locker room from the coaching staff, but at the same time, I think they look at the quarterback position and they probably feel like we can do better than this. Their offense is anemic now. Also, keep in mind that their running back position has been decimated by injuries. Rex Burkhead is out of the lineup for the remainder of the season, more likely than not, with that concussion. He may be back. We'll see. But they've been without Sony Michel for much of the season. Damian Harris has been a revelation. They've got running backs for days, but they got no receivers. They got nothing out there at receiver. And it's hard to really put a lot of the blame on Cam Newton when you got nothing out there. They get nothing out of the tight end position and almost next to nothing out of the receiver position. I think at halftime of that game, he had one completion to no. I don't think that was it. I think going into the game, he had one completion for a touchdown this season to a wide receiver or something crazy like that. It's a ridiculous stat, but when you watch the Patriots play, it makes a ton of sense. I think that if they are being fair, Cam is still in the discussion. If they are being real, they're probably like, we can do better than this. So we'll see what happens. At the end of the day, if the Patriots don't re-sign Cam Newton, I think the thing that's really interesting is who's going to be in the market. I think he could be in that same position that he was in a season ago. Who's in the market for a aging Cam Newton that looks like he's struggling to throw the football? Like every time I watch Cam Newton throw the ball, I'm looking at him. I'm like, does your shoulder still hurt? Because that looks really excruciating the way you just threw the football. That looked like it hurt. That looked like it hurt my shoulder. And I'm watching you throw the football. Everything looks like it hurts on Cam Newton. It really does. So I don't think anybody's going to be beating down his door to sign him. And if the Patriots don't want him back, we could get to August and Cam Newton could be sitting there just like he was this past year, waiting for someone to pick up the phone and call him. So we'll see what happens with him. Thank you for the super chat, JDSG. Got another super chat here from Cody _ I'm glad to hear that you're feeling better, man. That warms my heart. I don't know what it was, but I'm glad you're feeling a lot better. Asan Moore says, do you think that Jeremy Reeves will get more playing time than trash can Apke? I think they're going to continue to stay with Apke, but you're going to see them work in Jeremy Reeves more. I think he earned the right to play a little bit more after his performance on Thanksgiving. And so I think you'll see that. But remember, DeShazer Everett at some point will be back. So they're hoping to get a little bit healthier at that safety position. And I think there's a chance that you could see a little bit more of Reeves, more so than Apke once you get DeShazer Everett back. But I think they're still going to start Apke until he makes some kind of critical error or some kind of big mistake. They're going to keep working in Jeremy Reeves. But I think you're going to still see a lot of Apke until we get DeShazer Everett back. Once Shays comes back, I think you can see a situation in where they're comfortable putting Reeves on the field, but not in a starting capacity. I think they're going to continue to roll with Apke in that fashion. The Black L.B. says, welcome back, brother. Really appreciate that, Black L.B. He says, glad you enjoyed the 5 Fs during your bye. During prayer at Thanksgiving dinner, I thanked the pigeons for passing up on Justin Jefferson, laughing my ass off. I told them they were going to regret that. It's obvious. You watched the game last night. Who's Jalen Reagor? Don't ask me. I can't help you there. But all the while, every week, Justin Jefferson is scoring another touchdown and grittying in the end zone. All I know is I told anybody, and there was an Eagles fan, love him to death, came up here, wanted to make a bet with me, and I'm like, you don't want this smoke. Because I can guarantee you that the Vikings got the best receiver in terms of statistical production. They've got the best receiver in 2020 as a rookie. Trust me on this. He's not the most talented. He's not more talented than Jerry Jeudy. He's not more talented than Henry Ruggs. But if you're talking about from a pure production standpoint, they lost a 1,000-yard receiver last year in the offseason by trading away Stephon Diggs. They were going to need to fill that void immediately. Justin Jefferson just came off of 112, 13, 14, 15 catch season at LSU. Fully capable of filling that void. And people slept on his speed. Oh, he's not fast. Okay, well, he ran a 4.4 at the combine. I think he's plenty fast. I saw it on tape. He ran by some guys. Saw the Texas game where he caught it down the sideline and ran by everybody. He's playing fast. He can run. And he's showing that in the league. And I said, this guy's going to tear it up. And I said, once Kirk figures it out, and it took Kirk about 4 or 5 weeks to figure it out. I said, once Kirk figures it out, though, he's going to light it up. This man's going to have 1,000 yards receiving this year. And I can't say that I didn't see it coming, because it did. Got a comment here from Juan Gotti Talking Sports. My man Juan Gotti Talking Sports says, in my opinion, I think Alex Smith should be the bride QB and have Kyle Allen sit behind, then have him take over in 2 years when he's 26. That's the best for the future, in my opinion. I don't know if they believe in Kyle Allen or not. That's why I thought the rest of this season was imperative that Allen stay healthy and perform, because it would have really given us a real feel for, can this guy do it or not? You know, is he really the turnover machine that everybody thinks? Remember, Josh Allen was turning it over at an alarming rate when he first got in the league, and he's not turning it over at an alarming rate this year. Like, you can grow out of these things. Doesn't happen all that often, but it can happen, and I was hoping that it was going to happen with Kyle Allen. We were going to see, but he got hurt. And I don't know if they view him as the future of this franchise or not. As of right now, I think that's a no. I think they want to draft a guy. But we'll see. I don't know what this staff is thinking right now. That's the hard part to really pin down. This is a really convoluted and complicated situation, made that much more complicated by the division being in the state that it's in. So Alex Smith coming back stabilized things temporarily, but you still need a long-term answer. And I don't think that guy's on the roster right now. So we'll see. Tuano says, Mike McCarthy is garbage, but he needs time in Dallas. Sure, you give him all the time he wants. It's not going to get better. I'm just telling you right now. Mike Nolan is trash. You're going to have to find you a new defensive coordinator. I hope you keep him in Dallas. But Mike McCarthy he's awful. He was awful in Green Bay, if you ask me. You know, there's a lot of things fundamentally wrong in Dallas, and Mike McCarthy is among those things. So, look, it's on fire in Dallas. I've got my s'mores. You know, I've got all the ingredients. Graham cracker, got my vegan chocolate, and I've got my marshmallow over here. And I'm ready to go make a s'more, watching this dumpster fire in Dallas. And he's the one with all the matches. And Jerry's got the gasoline. And I'm going to watch them continue to burn that thing to the ground. Hassan Moore says, did you also know that Mike McCarthy will be in Dallas for a while? Look, I don't know what's going to happen. Jerry usually isn't the guy that has a knee-jerk reaction to a season or two. We saw that with Jason Garrett. Even though Jason Garrett, you say what you want, he didn't lose a bunch in Dallas. The years that he struggled, it was usually directly correlated to an injury at the quarterback position. You can say, well, that's what the Cowboys have this year. Duh. They were losing before Dak got hurt. So let's not go there. Let's not try that. Okay, they were getting their asses handed to them. The only thing that Dak stopped them from doing was getting embarrassed, like they've been getting embarrassed of late. There wasn't any 38-10s because Dak, when they were down by 31 in the fourth quarter, would score 28 unanswered points. That's the only reason. That's the only difference, is that they were still getting their asses whooped. Atlanta was whooping their ass. The Browns was whooping their ass. Seattle had them at one point, and Dak always brought them back to make it look a lot less bad. Okay, but they still were getting their asses handed to them. This is much bigger than just Dak Prescott. So I digress. Got Any Grapes says, was able to surprise the family back from deployment right before Thanksgiving, and man, our boys showed up. Think there's been a murder. I'm glad you were able to come home, surprise the family, and enjoy it with those that you love. That's awesome, man. So your Thanksgiving was truly special, and then the boys put the cherry on top for you, man. It doesn't get much better than that. That's truly a blessing, man. Awesome stuff. JP says, Eagles fans are calling for both the heads of Doug Peterson and Howie Roseman, and I heard that their passing up on Justin Jefferson created a mutiny in the front office. Again, Howie Roseman, to me, doesn't do the draft all that well. I've never been a Howie Roseman guy from a draft perspective. I thought his ability to build a roster, however, his roster creation and his ability to trade for assets and trade for guys, and you feel like the Eagles just fleeced somebody for a player, and his work in free agency, I've always admired that. Thought they've gotten good value for guys in free agency and things of that nature. Some of the trades that they've made over the years have been some really calculated moves that have benefited the Eagles. But from a draft standpoint, he's never been one to really worry about draft picks. He'll trade a first-round pick for a player. He'll trade up to get a guy like he did for Dallas Goedert, to get in front of Dallas, things of that nature. He's never really cared that much. Howie Roseman has no problems having a 5-player draft. I thought his draft this year was absolutely ass-tastic. Just absolutely ass-tastic. 3 receivers, none of them, to me, any good. Quez Watkins and Hightower and I'm not gonna sit here and say that Jalen Reagor isn't any good. He wasn't worth a first-round pick. Period. End of discussion. So they overreacted to the lack of speed they had in 2019 and overcompensated for 3 speed guys, and they didn't get any substance at the receiver position. Just a bunch of guys that can run really fast. Well, there are a lot of guys that can run that aren't any good at the receiver position. Try again. So I don't think he's very good at this draft thing. I think he's really good at constructing a roster. But if you're not good at the draft, eventually that's going to catch up with you. And I think it's starting to catch up with Howie Roseman here with this football team. As you can see, they are not very good right now. Ree says, welcome back, my friend. Feels good to be back, Ree. Thank you so much for that. JP says, bro, I don't want to hear any more of Matt Nagy's excuses. Chicago needs to be done with his ass, and the Trubisky/Foles experiment needs to end. The whole Trubisky-Foles thing, that doesn't fall in the lap of the head coach. That falls in the lap of the general manager, Ryan Pace. So if you've got a problem, and I talked about this, there are 2 things that can get you fired as a GM. One is picking the wrong head coach, and maybe Ryan Pace did that. 2 is picking the wrong quarterback, and we know Ryan Pace has done that already. So, and remember, he traded up to do that. So I don't think it's just going to be Matt Nagy falling on the sword here in Chicago if, in fact, he is done. I think you could also see him being accompanied by GM Ryan Pace as well. Brian says, or I think you weren't talking to me at that point. JP says, sounds like Vic Fangio and John Elway are on thin ice in Denver, and Drew Lock is being called a bust already. Fans are so impatient when it comes to these young quarterbacks. Like, injuries have really affected Lock this year. He's not 100% himself. Injuries have impacted him at the receiver position. Your best receiver in Cortland Sutton played all of 1 game this season. Your second round pick. KJ Hamler done for, not done for the season, but missed a ton of games early in the season. Like, There's a lot going around there. Like, you got to be patient. And I can tell you this. Drew Lock is a guy that I still believe in Denver. And John Elway, I told you I'm not a big fan of his. Haven't been, nor I don't think I ever will be. Vic Fangio, to me, is a guy that I don't think he's in a win-win situation. I don't think he's in a winning situation here. I think he's being set up to fail. Here's the thing. They just wanted Vic to stabilize the defense, and they were going to figure some things out on offense. And the defense has been good. Even with Von Miller being out, the defense has been good. Vic's done his job. The offense isn't very good in Denver. That's the problem. It continues to be the problem. And he's probably going to be the guy that falls on the sword, because in Denver, it's never John Elway's fault. It's always everybody else's fault. And so another coach hired, another coach fired, and John Elway's going to say, hey, it wasn't me. It was this guy. I'll prove it. Let me pick another coach. Well, how many coaches are you going to get to choose, handpick, fail, and still be able to point the finger at somebody else? We'll see. Thank you for that, Sherlock homeboy. Really appreciate you. John Perez says, how the hell does the GM of the Jags get fired before Doug Marrone's stinking ass gets the pink slip? And also, plus, I remember Tampa Bay's Carl Nick's career ending from a staph infection. Brandon Noble's career in Washington ended due to a staph infection. So these things aren't uncommon. You know, you see it all the time, but you know, you also have to identify and acknowledge when the NFL gets these things right and helps save someone's life as well. But I was thinking the same thing. Like, and I don't have a Doug Marrone problem. I think he's coaching his ass off personally. They've been in every ball game just about this season. They haven't really gotten their asses handed to them in any game for the most part this season. They're just not very good, you know. But at the end of the day, I thought Marrone coached his ass off this year. But I thought they should have been gone at the same time. Why? I mean, if you want to get a head start, be my guest. By all means, knock yourself out. But to me, why not just wait till the end of the season and can both of them at the same time? Like, we know Doug Marrone's not going to be around next year, but it makes sense from this standpoint if I'm playing devil's advocate. You want the GM, because if you're doing it the right way, you want the GM to select the next head coach. So instead of firing them at the same time and then having to scramble to find a GM, because technically you're not supposed to be looking for a new GM if there's someone occupying that position. Well, it's vacant now. Excuse me. It's vacant now. So they can go out and find their next GM, who can then find the next head coach, because we know Doug Marrone's not going to be back at season's end. And then they can start turning their attention to the draft. So I understand where they're coming from. You know, get the process started, get the ball rolling on finding the right guy to be the general manager, who will then find the right coach, who will then help you pick the right quarterback to run this franchise moving forward. So I understand that. I hate the fact that, you know, Caldwell got the pink slip this early, you know, but it is what it is. Cody _ says, Will still my guy, though. I said on Thanksgiving, and obviously this was before the PED situation, I wanted him. I don't know if I want him now, because you just got 6 games for PED. So you got one more time to put something in your body unknowingly that is on the banned substance list, and now you're done indefinitely. I can't take that risk. So Cody _ says, I want Kenny Stills. You should want Kenny Stills. He would make the biggest difference in Green Bay. Got Any Grapes says, Bill O'Brien was the last cancerous coach to me. You know what? You're right. I totally whiffed on that one. Forgot all about Billy O. He's definitely was a cancerous coach, and you're right. He was definitely the last cancerous coach in this league, without a doubt. So you are spot on. I was definitely off on that one. JP says, Deshaun Watson needs to get the hell out of Houston. They will never win. Problem is, he just signed a fresh, brand new, fat-ass extension last year. He is not going anywhere. JP says, Gase is employed by Woody Johnson, is a trash owner, and doesn't get it. I just don't understand why he still got a job. That's the thing that just continues to baffle me. Cody underscore says, do you think Nathaniel Hackett will get a head coaching job with our offense, with the way our offense has been playing, or no, because he doesn't call the plays? I don't think that he'll get a head coaching job, no. I think there are other candidates that will be out in front of him this year. I can name at least 4 or 5 off the top of my head, that comes to mind. Now, again, in this league, we know it's a copycat league. A lot of teams are looking for guys of the offensive persuasion. However, when I think of coaches that are ready to go, Matt Eberflus in Indianapolis, their defensive coordinator, Robert Saleh, defensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers, looks like a prime candidate. I think of Eric Bieniemy in Kansas City with the Chiefs. I think he's a guy that is a candidate right now and looking to get a job. I think Joe Brady in Carolina is a hot name right now, doing a fantastic job with the Panthers. Like, these are all guys that I think come to mind, 2 on the offensive side, 2 on the defensive side, before you even get to a guy like a Nathaniel Hackett. So it'll be interesting. There's going to be plenty of jobs available, I think, this offseason. So we'll see what they decide to do. Yeah, I'll be here for overtime, Cody. Take it easy. 20th Mike says, has there ever been a football game on a Wednesday? I don't know the answer to that. That's a great question. I can't recall football ever be playing on a Wednesday of the professional sort. Definitely college football, sure, but not professional football. Can't remember. Yeah, I was hyped on Thanksgiving, to say the least. Very, very hyped. Reese says, Todd Bowles deserves some blame. This defense is getting torched. Yeah, there's definitely enough blame to go around, Ree. I would agree with that. The fact that you thought it was okay to put Carlton Davis one-on-one with Tyreek Hill over and over again, after the first touchdown, you should have said, okay, I've seen enough of that. But to think that it was okay to just keep doing it, that's a problem, for sure. Reese says, how fickle is the NFL media? When we were 6-2, Brady changed this team and the culture. Now that we're struggling, there's a rift between BA and Brady, and the sky is falling. That's the nature of the business. You know how this goes. You've been watching football long enough to know that it's a Janet Jackson league. What have you done for me lately? Doom, 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 doom. Ooh, yeah. You already know. We talk about this all the time. It's a week-to-week league. You go and you beat the brakes off of somebody. If you would have beat the Chiefs, they would have been talking about you like the next best thing since sliced bread. Oh my God, this Buccaneers team, look out. But you lost the game. And look, you should be fortunate because that had ass thrashing written all over it. Written all over it. If that fumble is not forced by Shaq Barrett, you're going to lose this game 41-10. That fumble changed everything. Reese says, Falcons twice, Lions, and Vikings. We can go 3-1 post-bye. Absolutely. But the issue isn't 3-1 post-bye. The issue is when you see good opponents, you crumble. That's the problem. And that's what you have to be concerned with. Look, if you go 3-1 post-bye and you get to, 10-6, 11, let's say you get to 11-5. I think 11-5 is more realistic than 10-6. Say you win all 4 of those games. And you probably won't. You're probably right. You'll probably lose the Falcons once. Whatever. Maybe the Vikings get you. Who cares? You make the postseason. And let's say your first game is against a team that can play some defense. Let's say that the Seattle Seahawks end up with let's say you end up being because you're going to be the 5th seed. You're going to be the first wild card. So you'll have to play Washington more likely than not, or the Giants, whomever wins that division. Let's say you lose that game. Let's say it's Washington and that defense overwhelms you. Brady's under duress and he turns it over a couple of times and you lose to Washington 20-17. That's the problem. You're not going to lose that game if you play Washington, though. But that's the problem, is that if anybody can play defense, you have a problem. That's the problem right now. And I think there is a rift between Brady and BA. Why? Because BA hasn't made the adjustments. Brady isn't a fit for his offense. I've talked about this already. You can't sling it down the field with Tom Brady. He's not Jameis Winston. Brady's at his best when he's surgical underneath. So let him be surgical underneath. And, all BA is concerned with, well, we got guys open. He's not hitting them. Well, duh, that's because that's not what he specializes in at this point of his career, BA. I get it. No risk it, no biscuit. Well, you got the wrong guy for that. You got the wrong guy for that. You want Brady to be Brady? Let him be surgical underneath. Quick passes out of his hands so he doesn't have to worry about the offensive line holding up. Too many deep drops with him having to rely on protection to hold up for him to push it down the field. It's just not a good fit. All right. Let's go ahead and wrap this thing up with some garbage time. Wednesday night football tonight. Wow. Didn't see that coming. Did any of you? No. But this is 2020. I told you before the season started, stop bitching. This is what it is. And here we go again. Tell you what. This isn't what I thought it was going to be when the schedule came out. This isn't even what I thought it was going to be a month ago when these teams first played for the first time this season. When these two teams locked horns in Baltimore. When the Ravens were still one of the best in the AFC. Man, is it a far cry from that. Steelers have run away with the division. The Ravens aren't in the playoffs if it started today. Yikes. Now you got Bob Griffin starting for the Ravens today. This should be fun. Got a lot of Washington fans. I'm rooting for Robert, but I'm not rooting for the Ravens. I can't stand them. Oh, no, I'm good. I'm going to pass on that. I'm not rooting for Robert's ass either. Don't give a damn about Robert Griffin III at all. I would have had a lot more patience with him and a lot more understanding. And maybe there would have been a soft spot in my heart for him. Had he been able to acknowledge the shit that went wrong in Washington, yeah, partly that was my fault. I was young, I was dumb. I had some people in my ear. My ego got the best of me. That would be great to hear from him. You'll never hear from him. He doesn't get it. He still thinks that everything that happened in Washington was somebody else's fault. It was the Shanahan's fault. Okay. If that's the case, then go to Baltimore and stink it up too. So I'll be rooting for him to do what I expect him to do, which is to stink. And I'm expecting the Steelers to rough him up, him to turn it over 2 or 3 times, and them to get their brains bashed in the way that they're supposed to with Robert Griffin III starting for them. Just in case he thinks there's a chance I can start again in this league. I'm a starter. Okay, well, we'll see today. You want to be a starter? Prove it. Best defense in the league. Serving you up on a platter right here on a Wednesday afternoon. You got a chance to prove to the rest of the league you can still play at a starter-like level. Prove it. He's going to get his ass whooped today. Get his ass handed to him today. No Ingram. No Dobbins. They're going with Gus Edwards, who's not bad. Let's not act like Gus Edwards chopped liver. He's not mincemeat. But he's going to get his ass handed to him today. Griffin stinks. And Steelers will be 11-0. And I'd like to be the one that polishes off that O. I'd like to be the team that does that, personally. All I'm asking the Ravens to do is make this thing competitive and bang the Steelers up a little bit. Don't let them coast to a 27-10 victory. Don't let them do that. Make them work. Make them earn it. We'll see what happens. But tell you what, I'm not banking on that happening with Robert Griffin III playing quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens. I'm just happy that the game next week against the Cowboys got pushed back to Tuesday so that now Lamar Jackson's able to play. It would have been a crying shame if he would have been able to go against the Cowboys and they get a win against the Ravens because Robert's in there slinging it around. Yeah, glad Lamar will be back to run all over that Cowboys defense next week. So anyway, that's my assessment of that game. The Steelers, I think, are the class of the AFC North. I still think that the Chiefs are the best team in football. I'm not moving off of that spot, but I think the Steelers team is very, very good, and they'll prove it today with a win over the Ravens. I'll take 27-13 will be the final score in this game. Yeah, there you have it. So that's going to do it for me. Your man, Louie T. I thank you guys for joining me. If you haven't already done so, what are you waiting on? Go ahead and subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content. All right. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. All right. And also hit that like button if you haven't already done that. Okay. 100 of you are out there, only 30 likes. Let's get that like total up, man. Support your man, Louie T. Show me some love. Feels good to be back in the saddle. Feels good. Feels good. Always feels good to get back behind the mic. We're gonna have some more to talk about a little bit later on this evening after that game has met its conclusion, somewhere around the 7:15 mark. I think we'll see that game meet its conclusion, and then we'll chop it up, talk about the finish, and then I've got some more work to do. So I will see you guys later. Thank you for joining me. Man, it feels good to be back. You guys have a good one. I'll see you a little bit later on. Steelers, Ravens, AFC North. Family business. If these two teams say they ain't did it, then they ain't did it. But if they did, well, that's family business. See you guys a little bit later on. Have a good one.